Okay. Hello, good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. Hello, good evening.
Give a few more minutes. Today, the sun came out a little bit. Did it? I've actually just seen that the sun came out. Did it actually warm up any?
Yes.
Oh, it did?
Yes. Thank goodness.
Okay. Ooh. I mean, that's good, but that means people might be outside instead of it's cold the last few, they might be like, woo. So, well, it's always recorded, but I'm hoping people, okay. I'm looking for my team. I hope are they showing up? Okay.
Yes.
Books in the box, like the boxes.
I'm just gonna mute that, Miss. Let's mute. Okay. Okay. We're gonna start with.
Hey, how you doing? Doing all right. Doing all right. It's going.
Okay, I'm gonna start reading in a little bit.
Boy, he's walking slow, but he's still making it.
If you ever find yourself stuck in the middle of
We took away that right, unfortunately.
ever find yourself stuck in the middle of the sea,
Have a good one.
tell the world to find you. If you ever find yourself lost in the dark and you can't see, I'll be the light to guide you.
What's up?
Find out what we're made of.
He's walking slow.
Help our friends in need. You can
Yeah.
count on me like 1, 2, 3. I'll be there. And I know when I need it, I can count on you like 4, 3, 2, and you'll be there. 'Cause that's that's what friends are supposed to do. Oh yeah. Ooh, ooh, yeah, yeah. If you're tossing and you're turning and you just can't fall asleep, I'll sing a song beside you. And if you ever forget how much you really mean to me, every day I will remind you. Oh, find out what we're made of when we are called to help our friends in need. You can count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. And I know when I need it, I can count on you like 4, 3, 2, you'll be there. 'Cause that's what friends are supposed to do, oh yeah. Ooh, yeah, yeah. You'll always have my shoulder when you cry. I'll never let go, never say goodbye. Can't count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. And I know when I need it, I can count on you like 4, 3, 2, you'll be there. 'Cause that's what friends are supposed to do, oh yeah.
Hello, welcome to the Ward 7 May meeting. The Ward 7 Education Council May meeting. We always try and play some music that has something to do with the month that we're celebrating. And so this month, we are indeed celebrating Mental Health Month. So I just want to say that mental health awareness is really important, and we're trying to make sure that the stigma is not there. So that was Bruno Mars, You Can Count on Me. And we're just hoping that as we continue to talk about the topic, that people will seek the support they need, especially with so much happening coming out of COVID. With that being said, I want to move on with our meeting for today. I'm Marla Dean. I am the chair of the Ward 7 Education Council. We might go a little out of order because our first guest has not yet arrived. And we might start with Elizabeth Corinth, but the agenda as planned is to have Melody Webb Esquire. She's an attorney, the executive director and founder of Mothers Outreach Network, to come and talk about earned income and child tax credits. So many people don't understand what is going on with that, don't take advantage of it. And also, one of our council members has legislation up before the city council to extend that in DC. So I want you to be fully aware of that because we know that many families live at what we call at that ALICE line, asset limited, income constrained, employed, meaning the DC is such an expensive place to live that there are, for many people, there's a gap between what they earn and what it takes to live comfortably or well in the district. So I just want to talk about that. We're also going to have Elizabeth Corinth. She is coming to represent the DC LSAT Collective. She's going to talk about their organization and school as LSATs, while we need everyone involved and informed in that process. Then we will have our State Board of Education representative and also the board chair, Ebony Rose Thompson, come and give us updates. We'll finish with some announcements, bring you up to speed on where we are with elections and committee sign up. We continue to ask people to sign up for committees, and we expect to adjourn early tonight. So with that being said, I am going to ask Ms. Let me check and make sure Melody has not joined yet. I don't think I see her. Okay, so with that being said, I want to start with Elizabeth Corinth. Are you ready to
Yep.
copy for us? Okay, so I'm going to give you sharing privileges.
Awesome.
Just one moment. Trying not to, ooh, okay, there it is. My screen is moving all over the place. There it is. Okay, I'm going to give you sharing privileges. And so you should be able to come aboard, and or if you have anything you want to share with anyone, that is perfectly fine.
Great. Yes, I will go ahead and share my screen. Just to show everybody, well, maybe first I'll stop sharing and show myself so that I can just say hi to everybody if I can.
So I pinned you. So
okay,
that
great.
hopefully people can see you also. Okay.
Awesome. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Corinth. I'm currently LSAT chair at School Within School at Gauding, where my 3 kids attend. So we are in Ward 6, but I also help coordinate the DC LSAT Collective, which is a group that was started intentionally to kind of be a source and a resource for all LSATs across all wards across the city. And so our goal is really to be a place where members of LSATs throughout DCPS can come together to share best practices, to share knowledge, to ask questions, to learn, and just, you know, it's a volunteer role. A lot of people come into it, maybe not being very familiar with what it's about and kind of how to approach it and what it's there for, and trying to contribute to our schools. And so we just want to be a place where folks can come and learn from each other and help and support each other. So our
So
3.
before you get started, I don't know if you're going to get into this, but many people may not even know what an LSAT is and how it's different than a PTO. I'm really hoping you can at least give us the, you know, the LSAT 101, the basic. Okay, thank you.
For sure. Yeah, great. Yeah, so there actually is a really handy little graphic. So maybe I'll pull that up. About the difference between LSATs and PTOs. But yes, so every DC public school is it's supposed to have an LSAT, and it's a group. It's made up of elected representatives from kind of the families of the school, elected representatives among the staff, and also a designated community representative. And the goal for LSATs is to serve as an advisory group for the principal to provide kind of a diverse range of perspectives and provide transparency and connection between the general school community and the principal to advise them on school priorities. So the main areas of focus are the comprehensive school plan, which is the set of goals that the school sets out each year as kind of their priorities in a couple different focus areas. And then the LSAT also advises the principal on the budget as that comes through. So as the principal is developing their budget, they present it to the LSAT, and the LSAT kind of signs off to say that they saw it and whether they agree with the principal's decision. So those are some things. I'm trying to pull up that that graphic. But anyway, there's also, I think I noticed that Sharona Robinson is on the call or was, but yeah, Sharona's here. She is one of the community action team representatives and also is a great resource for LSATs and what LSATs are all about. So she can correct or add on to anything that I may have missed around the goal of the LSAT. But so right now is the time in the school year when LSATs are recruiting for next year. So at your school, you should hopefully be seeing, have seen or see sometime soon kind of a call for nominations. So there should be a call for nominations for family members who would like to serve on the LSAT. And then there should be an election that's supposed to happen between May 1st and June 30th at each school so that next year's LSAT is in place. Typically LSATs are intended to meet once per month. The LSAT meetings should be open to the whole school community. So that's another thing you should be seeing from your school each month is what the schedule is of the upcoming LSAT meetings and how you can participate. Some schools have them in person, some schools have them virtually, but they should be open to the whole community. So that's a way that you can, if you want to get involved kind of in a smaller way, you can just attend those meetings and get a window into what's going on at your school, what are the priorities, and you can usually have a voice at those meetings, even if you're not a member. If you really want to dig in and have a voice in terms of just making sure that the school principal is hearing your perspective on the direction the school should be going in different areas, then you can, volunteer to like you can self-nominate if you want to, and volunteer to join the LSAT. And then it's pretty like low key really in that it's mostly just a once a month attending the meeting commitment. You may be able to do things in between, but we try not to, it's a volunteer role. So I think most schools try not to make it a big thing, but so it's a great way to kind of like really be able to speak directly to your principal and speak directly about the school priorities. And it's a place to bring up kind of questions and concerns where the principal is meant to be there. The principal is not a part of the LSAT, but they're meant to be present.
You admitted that it was your mistake.
So that's kind of the overview of what else. And I mean myself. Okay, that's an overview of what LSATs are. Happy to answer any questions if people have specific questions around what the LSAT does or how it might be working at your school.
No, but I mean, I don't know if people have questions and we'll take questions, but I do want you to know that Sharona Robinson did put a document with a link in the chat for people to understand what LSATs are. She also let us all know that these are LSAT elections are aligned with the schedule that WT, the Washington Teacher Union, follows. So, okay, did you want to go back to your presentation? But I just wanted people to have a slight understanding of the difference between the two.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I found that now that, thank you, Sharona, for sharing that link. That's what I was looking for and not able to like find while I talked, but yeah, so I will share one thing that is on that website. That website is great and it has a lot of resources, but one thing it links to here is just, the difference between LSATs and PTOs. So kind of here's the who, what, when, how of LSATs, and then down there at the bottom, you can see the distinction. So LSATs are required at each school. They're made up of parents, teachers, and school community members. They don't have a budget. They're there to help set school priorities and direction, and their goals should align with and support the school goals. A PTO, a parent organization, is not required, but is recommended. It's typically parent-led, and the membership is largely made up of parents. It may be, most of the parents in the school may be part of the PTO, whereas at LSATs, it's typically about 4 parents or guardians, along with about 4 teachers and a couple other school communities. PTOs often have or are a 501c3, so they do fundraising and they kind of have a budget. They are there to help carry out the school priorities. So they may be actually, have committees that are doing fundraising or volunteers. We have like community building committee and, communications committee, right? So they actually kind of do some things, their parents who are supporting the schools in doing things, whereas the LSAT is more meeting just to kind of advise. But the parent organization goals should also align with and support the school goals. So there's a commonality. So that's a bit of kind of an overview. And so the DC LSAT Collective is here to support LSATs across the city and to connect them. So the main ways that we do that, we have a website, and I'm going to try to pull up the right version of it. There it is. So we have a website that we've put together with some resources and information that people might find useful. We have monthly meetings, so you can see our upcoming meetings. We typically meet, I think, the second Tuesday of the month from 7 to 8:15 virtually via Zoom. Our next meeting is coming up on May 9th. And it's kind of evaluating our school's academic year and then talking about the CSP, which is the comprehensive school plan, and thinking about how as LSATs we can contribute to those as they're being developed for next year, including talking about different academic strategies that schools are using and finding success with. So that's our goal for May. And then in June, we'll be just kind of doing a year in review and planning for next year's DC LSAT Collective. So the website, the meetings, and then the last resource that we have is a discussion board, which is like a Google group, basically, that you can join if you are a member of the LSAT. And that's a great way in between meetings, if you have specific questions that aren't answered on the website, to just kind of go out to the community of other LSAT members and say, hey, we're dealing with this issue. Is anyone else? Or how are people handling their elections? Or, any questions like that might come up around LSAT operations. It's a good place to go. And people also share information like finding out about the school budgets and what's the latest on what's going on with those and what's coming through the council. Like if people have kind of information, they try to share it out so that we can all be more informed or upcoming opportunities for engagement, things like that. So if you are an LSAT member, definitely recommend that you check the website out and come to meetings if you haven't been. I know there are a couple people here who we see frequently at meetings, so thank you for your engagement, and we appreciate that. And just want to make sure that all the schools know about it. So if you're not on your LSAT, but who is, you could pass on the word that we exist and are out here and are here to support. And yeah, also definitely to encourage anyone who may not be engaged with your LSAT or know about it to learn more, to connect, and to try to attend some of those meetings if you can, or even consider joining. Yes, I see a question in the chat. Oh yeah. And yeah, we love Kat as well. The community action team has really been very actively engaged in attending our meetings and listening to kind of the things that are coming up and taking feedback from that. So that has been a really great benefit of the group. Allison is saying LSATs don't only review the budget, they really should be shaping decision-making around the budget, right? So yes, there's like active input going on to think, especially about, especially when you're in a situation of cuts, or if you happen to be in the lucky situation of having additional funds coming into your school, like how do you spend those funds, or how do you make those cuts in ways that are in alignment with the school's goals, especially as outlined in that comprehensive school plan. And then the teacher's asking, you mentioned the LSAT reviews the individual budget. What happens if they do not agree on several budget items? Yes, so that's a great question. There is like a formal submission that the LSAT chair does after. Do you want to talk about that, Sharona? I can let Sharona, she's like the expert.
Take a stab first if you want.
Okay, yeah. Well, from my perspective as the LSAT chair, the LSAT chair basically gets, a link and we're meant to go and we check, whether the principal did or did not engage the LSAT, and then whether the LSAT did or did not agree. And then there's also a space for comments. So you can say, yes, the principal engaged us, but we didn't agree, or no, the principal didn't even engage us, or yes, they engaged us and yes, we agree. And then you can put in comments. So if the LSAT did not agree on specific things, they can put those in. I'll let Sharona answer what happens, who sees that, what kind of the implications are of that feedback.
Yeah, thanks, Elizabeth. So really quickly, if the LSAT doesn't agree, so to be clear, LSATs don't always agree. However, we work closely with school leaders. One, you should be meeting every month. And it should not just be at budget time. We, try to pack a lot of stuff in that short amount of time. And I think, it's difficult to unpack a lot of that because it's a lot of data. It's a lot of numbers. And like Elizabeth so eloquently said, parents are volunteers. You're not budget experts. You're, even though some of you might do that in your work life, but in terms of sort of understanding, it's important to just have those meetings every month. So that way you are sort of building that foundation. So when you do get to the point where you are having those budget conversations, you have a clear understanding so that if there do have to be decisions made about positions, you understand why. So for example, if you have to cut, let's say, I don't know, a behavior tech, but instead you're going to use the funding to make an instructional coach half-time to full-time. So that way you are helping students and closing those achievement gaps and things like that. The budget should be around students and providing what is needed. But if you're not having conversations, you don't know what you don't know. And, sometimes again, when we don't agree on things, if we don't understand it, I don't agree, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you understand why you don't agree. So I think, again, having consistent conversations about data is important. Talking about that CSP or the comprehensive school plan, it is important. It's the roadmap schools follow. It's a fluid document. And you should consistently be progress monitoring. So if you aren't having those conversations at your LSAT meetings, please let us know because you definitely should be. As a matter of fact, there should be a CSP evaluation coming up pretty soon. I want to say the time period starts like now all the way up until the end of the school year where you're meeting and again, your progress monitoring to begin to plan for next school year. So you're looking like, did you meet the goals? Were the goals that you had in place, did they make sense? When you needed to sort of detour on that roadmap, did you do those things? And are students getting what they need? Like, are you closing those gaps? Like, those are the questions that we, try to help LSATs to get answers to by providing that information in sample agenda. So we try to make it as a process where you don't really have to do very much except for plug and play and just have your meeting. I'm happy to put my contact information in the chat as well as the information about the community action team, because again, you should be connecting with your CAT specialists or myself if I support your school community to have those conversations.
And Sharona, I wonder if you could answer kind of the question raised in the chat just about if your LSAT doesn't agree specifically on the budget and you do put that in feedback, like what happens with that? What is?
Yep. So all of that stuff gets shared with leadership. I know with us specifically, with school communities where that is not happening, we lean in a little bit more because again, it should be a dialogue. I think sometimes we have school communities where there's a sense of if I share too much, then I'll have lots of questions. I think as parents, we should be asking questions, but schools, like everybody has a role. School has a role, students have a role, and families have a role. But if your children are coming home talking about I ready or dibbles, how are you as a parent able to support those conversations if you don't even know what that means? So it's a way to just solidify the partnership between home and school. That's how I look at this.
So Marla, those are kind of the main points I wanted to make. I am open to any additional questions that folks may have for me. I'm sure Sharona is as well. But really want to thank you so much for just giving me the time to share a bit about DC LSAT Collective and about LSATs in general.
So thank you. I don't know if there are any other questions. If so, please put them in the chat or raise your hand. Again, when do you meet? Just so that we can make sure that people are aware of that one more time.
Yeah, so second Tuesdays of the month, 7 to 8:15 p.m. So our next one will be next Tuesday, May, I believe, 9th.
Okay. And you put your contact information in the mail, in the chat, I'm sorry. So please make sure you connect. Again, LSATs are a different function than PTOs, and but all of these organizations and committees and teams seek to serve the children and families of the schools and make sure there is a true partnership between schools and home. So know about your LSAT, be involved in your LSAT, be involved in your PTO, and be involved in the Ward 7 Ed Council. All of these are different functions and important to making sure that our schools get the resources, support, the information that they need so that our children can actually have opportunity and thrive. Any questions? I'm just seeing.
I was seeing one in the chat, which is from Simone about whether a person can serve as a board member and an LSAT at the same time. I'm not sure what you mean by board member, like on the PTO, or are you talking about the like
LSATs don't have
answers?
board members, right?
Right. So,
I was
but
speaking for the school. Currently, I'm a board member for the school, and I'm asking, can you be a board member and an LSAT during the same term for the same school?
So let me
Thank
ask
you.
a clarifying question. Simone, are you talking about a charter school or DCPS school?
Charter school.
That's right, I figured. Okay, charter schools have different ways to engage their families. LSATs are part of the structure of DCPS, okay?
Gotcha. Thank you for the clarity.
No problem. That's why we're here. Anyone else have a question? Okay, well, Elizabeth, you please come back, let us know anytime you need to inform or coordinate or collaborate. So thank you for your time. You're welcome to stick around if you so desire. But we're going to move now to hold on to our next guest. So our next guest is coming up. 1 second. There she is. Melody Webb. She's an attorney, the executive director and founder of Mothers Outreach Network. Everyone should know about this organization. Everyone should be involved in this organization. She's here to talk about earned income and child tax credits, but the organization does so many things for mothers, but for families in general. And I just want to bring to the fore Melody Webb. Are you there? There you are. Let me ping you.
Yes, I am. I'm here. And thank you so much. I actually also have a deck today and would love to share that with you all if I can.
Yep, I'm about to make you a co-host. So
okay.
You should be able to share.
Okay, great. Thank you. So let me go ahead and set that up. Okay. Share my screen. Okay, so and then I'll just take a moment to get that. See. Okay, so just need to do one more thing here. It's getting ahead of me a little bit.
If you don't have like 25 different screens and stuff, it's hard to move on.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna just stop for sharing for a minute. Just a second, please. I'm gonna just pull this over and Okay, so I was trying to get this to cooperate, but I don't think it's going to. Okay, well, thank you so much. I am really honored to be here today. Thank you, Dr. Dean, for inviting me, and thank you all for being here to listen to this presentation. I am, as Dr. Dean said, Melody Webb, Mothers Outreach Network, and today I'm actually going to present to you from the platform of the DC Guaranteed Income Coalition, which is a project of Mothers Outreach Network, but which brings together, co-convened with some recognizable groups like Bread for the City and others. And we basically came together during the terrible months of the pandemic. And I was really inspired through Mothers Outreach Network to actually work on guaranteed income, which ultimately led to work on the Earned Income Tax Credit and Child Tax Credit here in DC. So what you'll see here on the screen is just sort of,
Melody, before you get into your rhythm, can you tell us a little bit about you and your organization?
Oh, okay.
Let's start there, and then let's go into the work that you're doing.
Okay, so I am a Washington, DC native, and I live actually in Ward 6 in the waterfront, and I DCPS graduate. I'll make that connection to the purpose of your group. I actually am a graduate of Banneker High School, one of maybe the second or third graduating class to date myself. It's an excellent public school. And I started this organization after some years working as an attorney, and it really was driven by my work at Service Employees International Union, where I had the pleasure of working with people who were service workers, home healthcare aides, and there during the exciting times of President Obama's election, left the union wanting to kind of similarly work with mothers who were not even, in any employment at all. And so we started out with Mothers Outreach Network doing work that involved training people in their rights, and the goal was to build economic security and to help them really mobilize and inform and support them in mobilizing around knowing their rights and also in changing policies and laws. So we started the organization and went for many years really doing all volunteer work. I worked in other capacities as a public interest lawyer, legal services, policy advocacy, and all of that, of course, was great training and support for this Mothers Outreach Network. The Mothers Outreach Network currently works with a core group of moms. Those moms are leaders, they're advocates, they testify, they petition, they also are assisting in building a guaranteed income pilot, which is one of the offshoots of the project with the Guaranteed Income Coalition. But the organization has independently created a privately funded guaranteed income program, even as we have worked with colleagues to create a publicly funded long-term permanent program. So the pilot itself will pay individuals who are experiencing involvement with the child welfare system over the course of 3 years, $500 a month. And the idea is for us, in conjunction with the research partner, to demonstrate the power of cash and alleviating poverty, and how that can actually ameliorate the circumstances that lead to families being involved in the system. Some 80% of the cases involve neglect, and most of those are poverty driven. So for example, a child could be removed from their parent, or a neglect case could be brought for something related to poverty, specifically lack of shelter or failure to provide adequate food. So we are, really working deep, at the roots and trying to show that addressing poverty will address a great deal of family destabilization. And we're, really supported by wonderful, philanthropists around the city and around the country, in fact, that are very hopeful that we can, kind of work and demonstrate this change, that what change and difference it could make to give people cash. And so kind of segue now. Do you want to hear about any more? Is that good?
That's good. No, that's a good frame. I just think people need to have the context in which you work. But
Okay, no, I'm happy to provide it. So thank you. So we are an anti-poverty organization, racial justice organization, and gender justice organization. So I present here these quotes, not only from Dr. King, but from Ms. Johnny Tillman, because we try to lift up the work of Black mothers whenever we can. And it is told as some books by some scholars that it was actually Black women activists in the civil rights movement who really persuaded Dr. King to take up the cause of guaranteed income. And we're so happy he used his bully pulpit, really to build awareness. And that's what we see ourselves as building on today. And we, along with a lot of activists around the country, people who care about poverty, and care about our society. So I have a mission statement here. I'm not going to dwell on it, but the coalition, as I explained before, we're really just trying to build support through several, strategies. We have been conducting research where we have been able to, we've advocated with officials, and we really are trying to change the narrative, as are others around the country, around what it means to need support, and trying to get people to adopt the value system that it is a human right to provide people with basic needs. And so in that regard, we want to connect basic income to racial economic justice as well, given the racial income and wealth disparities. And we want to build a permanent guaranteed income program. You'll hear talk about guaranteed income pilots. And I have a slide later about what a pilot is, but we make no mistake, we see this as a long-term change, and we see experiments or pilots as demonstrating the power of guaranteed income. We want to also, as a sort of other twin goal, to preserve the existing social safety net. And we want to, overall build a solidarity economy. It's a values-driven mission that we have to eradicate poverty in DC and use these pilot programs as a pathway to changing policy. So I have just a quick overview of what I put together here. We'll talk about the coalition and its mission, the legislative progress we've made, and then we really will try to dig deep into what is guaranteed income in the context of refundable tax credits and show how it all merges together. So this coalition, just really quickly, started, as I said, during the pandemic, and just some images here for you to see. We went from being a UBI coalition to a guaranteed income coalition, and we organized a march in 2021. We also have just put together, again, materials on our website. These are some of the legislative gains we've made, launching direct cash assistance program. We feel very proud that it was our advocacy that led to the publicly funded pilot for new and expectant mothers, Strong Families, Strong Futures, operated by colleagues at Martha's Table. We also were very involved in getting safety net protections, benefit protections, and advocated for the Earned Income Tax Credit Expansion Clarification Amendment Act, which is a powerful tool now, because people who are in these pilot programs don't have to worry about losing a lot of their locally controlled benefits. And then we have been working, quite actively and have seen come to fruition the introduction of local refundable tax credit legislation. Again, just some images for you of the people who've been mobilizing across the spectrum, moms who have zero income and are, working hard to have their families, be successful on very little income. People who are low wage workers are also a part of our coalition. We're really proud of it. We've put together a toolkit on our website, which you can find here. It's an assortment of short art papers that describes kind of in depth, that talks about different pilots. We have a summary of the study that the city did, actually, which is very interesting, in 2018, which essentially says that even with all the safety net benefits together, even with living with the minimum wage, you cannot make it in DC. So it's a very interesting study to take a look at. And then we give an overview of the pilots in the DMV actually. And we talk a little bit about the different tax credits in those documents as well. So again, just more images of the activity we've been engaged in. We're going to start up our petitions collection again, really just trying to get, all of city officials on board with guaranteed income. And then I want to just pause now and just distinguish between these related concepts. So you've heard about universal basic income, and that's providing cash payments regularly to everyone in the community, regardless of their income. And the goal is to have that income reach the neediest people, but remove the stigma by providing it to everyone. We and our coalition believe that that is, not feasible, and we'd like to see funds go directly in a targeted way to the people who need it most. And because poverty so disproportionately impacts Black and Brown people, we support this guaranteed income targeted way of providing regular payments with no strings attached and no work requirements. So what I'll delve most into is refundable tax credits. Now, refundable tax credits have actually become a very popular mechanism to reach guaranteed income. And these are programs in which the government really can reduce what you owe in taxes and also provide you cash back. So those are the earned income tax credit and the child tax credit. We have a local version of the earned income tax credit, which is incredible and a leader in the nation. And then pilot programs, which I've referenced, are temporary guaranteed income programs, providing regular payments and targeted towards a specific community. So you'll see that we have a pilot program in DC that is for survivors, women who are survivors of domestic violence. We have a program now our organization is running, as I referenced earlier, the Mother Up pilot. There are pilots around the country for different populations of people who are experiencing poverty. So in terms of payments from refundable credits, I'll just do a quick breakdown. The earned income tax credit, as you all are aware of, it can provide to people up to, $11,789. And just to, for a point of comparison, the poverty line in DC, it provides a family of two with a two-person household with about $30,000. That's the federal poverty line. So just so you understand how much this is, like a third of the income that would be available to individuals with that in that bracket. The child tax credit provides up to $2,000 per child, and we'll talk in a minute about how that is very limited. The federal child tax credit, we don't currently have a local child tax credit program, but it does provide up to $2,000 per child to certain households, like the federal EITC and the EITC. They're limited to people with some income. So the DC Keep Child Care Affordable credit is another powerful credit available to people who have children that are eligible, and it's somewhat limited as well in its reach. The DC Homeowner Renter Property Tax Credit, which you all are probably familiar with, Schedule H, this is the amount it allots. And then we have a slide here because we do presentations about these issues just to show to people who didn't claim their credits that they could be eligible to up to $3,200 if they did not do so for stimulus payments. And people don't see a reduction in their benefits from claiming credit. So that's why they're so powerful. So the DC Earned Income Tax Credit refunds. So in 2022, the DC Earned Income Tax Credit program started paying people monthly with the idea that, it was sort of trying to pattern itself after guaranteed income programs. The most important part of this is that the DC Earned Income Tax Credit is going to go up to 100% of the federal Earned Income Tax Credit, which is incredibly generous. It will be the most generous in the country. And, that is, again, a powerful sort of tool to address racial income wealth gaps. And so we are, very excited about it. Just again, as an example, the maximum of about $5,000 in DC Earned Income Tax Credits is available to people. And then the DC earned income tax credit, as I said, will increase to 85% of the federal credit in 2025 and 100% of it in 2026 and beyond. There's, been a little bit of questioning about tax credits being paid out monthly. So the plan, I think, in the future is to make some of those give people the option to receive their extra tax credits over $600 as a lump sum. But I'm just a little bit more details maybe you guys need. But in any event, the child tax credit, earned income tax credit, there are qualifications for them, of course. They're along the lines of children, qualifications, parent-related qualifications, and their income limitations we would talk about. They require, again, some earned income to qualify. And the child tax credit are partially refundable in 2022, again, with some income, and they're also fully refundable in 2021. And then there are some special rules for certain categories of people. Let's see, my screen has gotten stuck a little bit. So eligible parents, just so you all know, who are the parents that are eligible? There are some requirements around residency, residing in the United States for half the calendar year in both cases for the CTC and the EITC. You do not need to be a citizen, but be a resident alien for the child tax credit purposes. And then there's an individual, taxpayer ID number or social security number required. And then there are some other provisions here. I won't go through all of them. And then there's a special rule for non-custodial parents. We also, the earned income tax credit, the social security number, it has to be valid for employment. So there's a difference there. You have to file a tax return and you must be a custodial parent. Again, investment income is allowed up to $10,300 or so. So I'm also going to just quickly tell you the eligible children. Children under the age.
Before you move, I just want to say, I think this is so important for people to understand. There's a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
With these universal basic income, it's not what Melody is here to talk about because she's not promoting that. She talked about the definitions, but she is talking about these two tax credits. Do they affect SNAP and TANF benefits?
No, they don't. And okay. That's the power of tax credits, because they're not considered income.
Right. And so I just wanted that to be clear. You can keep talking about it.
Yeah.
I wanted people to understand that, because with and that's the issue around when you sometimes have a little bit of a jump in income, it can put you on a benefits cliff. So yes, okay, please.
And that's why people are so excited about using this tax mechanism, this particular tool, as a way to avoid those benefits cliffs. And I mean, that's what happened with the child tax credit of 2021, which unfortunately was not extended. That, there were so many parents out there who don't typically file their income taxes because they're not required to, and they literally did not believe they could claim the child tax credit. They thought, I encountered over and over again, people would say, oh, but I receive SSI, I can't claim any extra income. And the answer was yes. And so one of the projects we started as a result was initially a Zoom-based workshop that we then, we provide people with one-on-one advice. We brought them into the community last year at some point. And, so there is no reduction in benefits from receiving these tax credits. So I'm going to go ahead to the next slide and tie this together a little bit more in a minute. So the limits, these are just some of the limits. I mean, I think the key income limitations, the key thing is to know really is that, both of these federal programs require some income. And so, of course, we want to, focus on creating some tax credits that do not, like the 2021 expanded child tax credit. That's, more the direction guaranteed income advocates want us to head toward. And, they're just, these particular limits. In the EITC, though, we also want to push that because, the credit, is available to people actually up to $59,150 if they're married and filing jointly. So it is somewhat generous. And, it just starts to decrease from the maximum at $20,000 in income. And you need, for the child tax credit, you need, again, a minimum amount of income for the full $1,500 per child refund. So these are still earnings based. So the revolutionary, use of the tax credits can be seen in legislation that was recently introduced by Ward 5 Council Member Zachary Parker, the District Child Tax Credit, and the Financial Support for Families with Children legislation. So I have just a very dense chart here to show you the power of those bills, which were introduced this year. And we have a pretty bleak budget outlook right now in DC, where there are some core programs that are being cut. So, we think it's critical that this legislation is, been put forth so we can, kind of advance the conversation and hopefully when the time is right, get those passed. But, just taking a look at this, essentially in both cases, the legislation is available to people with zero income. And so that makes them similar to the child tax credit in that regard. And that makes them, under the definition of guaranteed income, it makes them guaranteed income. These would be made through our tax code. These pieces of legislation are written to be a part of the tax code. And in DC, the amount would be up to $500 for per child in the district child tax credit context, and then $1,000 per child for the FSFC. The age, you can see here, the maximum child age when the phase out would start. And you see that in the case of the DCTC, there is a cap on the number of children. However, there is no cap on the number of children with the FSFC. So these are the bills that, are very exciting to advocates because, they essentially are available to people with no income, and there currently is nothing quite like this except for what we had in the CTC. And so we're just excited. Okay, so just looking at the outcomes, this particular study that we relied upon gave its own estimate of what the cost would be of these bills. The impact on poverty, the numbers look, a little small, but it's approximately, I think it's about 2,000 children, which is, every child is precious. And so we value that. We also, just some of the numbers here, 20% of the population would be reached with the district child tax credit. That program, as you saw on the prior slide, actually is available to people up to a pretty high income level, whereas the FSFC is really intended primarily for very low income and no income people. So just to point out again, what I've referenced, the problems with the current federal child tax credit is that, it requires some income and it phases in at 15%. And so, we have this example here, a single mother with 3 children would need to earn $42,000 approximately to be eligible for the full credit. And someone would have to work basically 16 hours a day, every day of the year, earning the federal minimum wage to qualify for this. The benefit is not fully refundable. So if a family's tax liability is $8,000 and they earn $2,000 credit from the CTC, their new tax liability is $6,000. However, if a family's tax liability is $1,000 and their credit is $5,000, they may not receive a full $4,000 refund. So the poorest families don't file taxes. And so typically, if your income is less than your standard deduction, this is getting a little bit in the weeds there, but undocumented children are not eligible. So, here are some of the other, so that's another flaw in the CTC. I'm going to move on to the EITC. So the, people, we really love the EITC. It is available to, low wage earners, and that is terrific. However, the poorest 16% of households don't receive the full EITC credit because they don't have enough income. Only 3% of children living in poverty receive the full EITC credit, just to give you the context, and 0% living in deep poverty live in households that receive the full tax credits, full credit. So we are excited about the EITC, but it does not reach our most impoverished children. So this just sort of, Diane, kind of sums up when, understanding our guaranteed income pilot goals, or that we want, a full-fledged guaranteed income. We use these pilots to show the power for different people in different circumstances of providing them with cash. We also, those pilots are meant to change narrative so you can understand, the stories of the people who are receiving these and challenge these harmful tropes and stereotypes that prevail around around poverty and people living in poverty. We also, want to look at how this just shows like expanding the local earned income tax credit and how that, really could be a powerful sort of way to reach guaranteed income, as we see in the proposal that Council Member Parker has put forth. And then the local child tax credit, creating a local child tax credit would also, as we saw, that would also address a targeted group of people in the community. So there are segments of the community that would essentially receive tax credits by way of the child tax credit. What we want ultimately is for not just families with children, but families without children. We want individuals, we want people who are elderly. We basically want the only criteria to be that you live below a particular income floor. But what has typically happened around the country is that when a jurisdiction starts a targeted tax credit program, like a child tax credit that doesn't require income, typically other groups are added. So these programs tend to expand and they're very exciting. So I think that's it. And I will stop sharing my screen and I'm happy to take questions. I work on a, policy level with these tax programs. Some of my language there came from some of my tax partners. So if you need help with individual tax filing questions, I might refer you to them. But thank you so much. And I'm happy to, continue to talk to you all to answer any questions I can.
Okay, so let's see if there are any questions. The reason we wanted to bring this to your attention is because to the community's attention is because of the participation rates, and people are not taking full advantage of it. They're not aware of it. This is something that is, in my estimation, due to you. Corporations, all kinds of people get all kinds of tax credits, tax breaks, all kinds of things. And so there should be zero guilt or stigma attached to this. We don't truly have a progressive tax code. It's regressive in many ways. So I just wanted, now if you have questions and clarity on any of these issues that Melody has brought, we would love to take some questions. Can we get copies of the slides?
Oh, absolutely, yes. And Dr. Dean, the number is something like 25% of people don't take advantage of that EITC in DC, which is just terrible.
Okay, right, that is. And I'm sure a concentration of those folks probably live east of the river. So we want to ensure that they do. So yes, we will get the slides and we will PDF them and send them out to everyone. Are there other questions? Because this is very important information. And you saw that the greatest impact is on child poverty, right? I mean, and that's what we're about at Ward 7 Education Council, is thinking about the children and their families. So any other questions? Raise your hand. It's a lot. Okay. We're going to make it available to you. We're going to ask that you share with your networks, that you really, this is great information. And people are saying thank you for the information in the chat, Melody. So they're appreciating the presentation, even if it's, you know, tax policy, and it's scary.
And I'll tell you also, Dr. Dean, we actually put on workshops. During the height of tax season, we did in the libraries. We actually go to, you know, work with community groups. So if anybody would like to have a workshop put on to parents, what we found is that there is a lot of tax filing hesitancy, and people are owed quite a bit of money. So we've recently talked with a mom who hadn't filed in several years because she knew she had owed taxes. She was in arrears. But then due to her having worked some years and due to the child tax credit of 2021, the government owed her money. So it's, you know, it's really powerful for people who don't typically file to understand that they might actually be owed money by the government. And that, you know, even if they're not owed money, you know, to be able to
Wait a
pay
minute,
down
hold
your
on. Is
debt.
that you, or I'm trying to figure out where that's coming from.
No,
Okay.
no, no.
Okay, go ahead.
That's me. I apologize.
Oh, yeah,
No
I was
problem.
just saying, to be able to pay down your arrears is really important. We know that, you know, failure to pay taxes can have serious consequences of people losing their, you know, not being able to get their driver's license, other identification. So we really believe in addressing the tax filing hesitancy and helping people overcome their fears. So they'll come to a workshop setting. They don't want to talk about what's going on. So many folks have unfavorable interactions with government, unfortunately. And so what happens in the workshop settings, they get to ask questions and hear it. Then they hear other people ask questions. And so by the end of the workshop, they're willing to sit and talk one-on-one with me and volunteers and our big law firm tax partner who loves this project. So we're happy to come to your organizations to present to parents if that is desired.
Well, we will put that out there and see if there's some desire for that, because we think that that's really important. Okay. Any other final comments or questions from anyone?
Yes, I have a quick question. Appreciate the info. Just wanted to make sure I'm correct. If I file my taxes, my CPA files my taxes for me, that means he is making sure I get whatever credits that I qualify for. Or is this something I need to mention to him? Or as long as I file my taxes, it should be automatic if I qualify?
I hope so. I mean, I will say that anybody can make a mistake, and we do see people who have used tax preparers that missed the 2021 child tax credit. It may have been a grandparent who had a child living with them and qualified. And, you know, so I believe people should know the information on their own so they can, have really informed conversations with their tax preparers. So I would say yes, you know, be knowledgeable yourself and then ask questions of your tax preparer.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say I read articles, I send my tax preparer, hey, are you doing this? Are you doing that? I mean, I know that he is a very good person, but and he does a great job. I mean, but that doesn't, everybody should take control of their own financial situation, and you should ask questions and you should feel empowered and knowledgeable.
Understood.
Okay. And well, with that, I want to thank you so much. and I'm going to give updates now to our, wait a minute, let me get you off screen so that you can, thank you, Melody. I really appreciate you doing this for us. This is important information. And I just wanted our community to be well versed in these issues. Now I want to give updates from our state board rep. However, she's about to go on to a panel, and so she's not able to provide those updates. Mela, do you have the updates that she sent to us so that we can share? Or
Sorry, coming off mute. Let me actually try to pull them up and then I'm gonna hop on camera.
okay, thank you.
All right. I think Marla, as you mentioned, she's about to be on a panel, so it may be easier for us to just read them. Hold on.
Okay.
All right. Yep. Let me come off. Okay. All right. So let me give you her updates. The state board is scheduled to vote on the social studies standards in June. Please continue to reach out to Ebony Rose with to share any feedback. And many have asked about financial literacy, which should be our next revision and a much quicker process than social studies. The Department of Education has approved the revisions to the ESSA, so the state board expects to start working on the new report card soon. And the city's first Pride Prom, led by state board student reps, will take place on May 13 at Whitman Walker. So that was her update.
The only thing I would like to add, because many people may not know what ESSA is Every Student Succeed Act. It was formerly called No Child Left Behind. It is the act that kind of guides education in the country. So just so that people can understand all those acronyms and make it more accessible to everyone to understand. With that, I just want to thank you, Mela, for sharing those updates, and we're almost done. Give me 1 second. Okay, and I'm going to unpin you so you don't have to be on display. And okay, wait a minute, it's not trying to let you go. Oh, wait a minute, it did. Okay, okay. With that, I just want to let you know that we continue to recruit for committee sign up. We have budget and finance programs, communications outreach, legislative, and membership. This is my email. If you're interested in serving in any of those capacities, we really, really, really need an active and involved community. I see, Mike, you have a hand up. Did you want to ask a question? Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I already asked it. That
Oh,
was
okay.
regarding the text. I will unraise my hand.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure we didn't miss anyone.
I appreciate it.
Okay, wonderful. So moving on to announcements, want to again share with you the Ward 7 YouTube channel. Please take your cameras right now, scan it so that you can lock it in. We load all our meetings there. So even if you're not able to attend, you can always go to the Ed Council YouTube channel, watch it, share it with others. There's always good information going on in our meetings. We are also having right now the school boundary and student assignment committee is in full effect, and they're going to have town hall series meetings. for planning projects around facilities, about access to schools. It is really important, I'm sorry, that you are registered for this with the Deputy Mayor of Education, and that you are engaged in this process. It impacts all of us deeply. The School Planning and Student Assignment Committee, of which I'm on, of which some other people on this call are on, is really important in terms of which children will go where, how, why, feeder patterns, all kinds of different issues are going to be addressed in this process that will be going on for the remainder of the year. So please stay engaged. Take your phone out, scan this code too, and become engaged in these town halls and make sure your voice is heard. We are in election season at the Ward 7 Ed Council. So we're looking for people to become chair, recording secretary, and parliamentarian. So we continue to take nominations. We do have nominations for some of the positions, but not necessarily all. So if you are interested in that position, please email this email address so that we can get you involved. With that being said, this is our meeting for the evening. We try and get you out on time. So we're going to give you 14 minutes. Back to you. And oh, Allison. What did you want to say, Allison? Come on.
Yeah, I didn't know if you were going to get to if people had announcements, but
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So I just wanted to say thanks to everyone who's been involved in budget advocacy for Ward 7 and all in other schools. And I'll just say briefly, I feel like it should be said here in the Ward 7 Ed Council, but over at Beers Elementary, our longtime Principal Peyton, our longtime assistant principal, our longtime custodian, and we have at least one other teacher that I know of who's been teaching for a long time, are all retiring. So we are having I know conversations are already starting about how to honor them and all that they have contributed and done for the school and for the community. So if anybody is interested in supporting that, please reach out to folks at Beers, because we would love to have you all be a part of that celebration.
So Sharona has an announcement, but Ward 7 Education Council is eternally grateful to Principal Peyton and AP Higgins and others for their long-term service to children in our community. And we are planning on, Allison, I'll connect with you offline to be a part of the celebration and the honoring of their legacy and their work. Sharona?
Yes, thanks, Marla. Really quickly, just a few announcements. First and foremost, I want to shout out our families who attended one of our Enrollment Saturday events on April 29th. And with that said, if you have not enrolled, please enroll as soon as possible. We want to ensure we are planning for your student. You can enroll online at dcps.dc.gov/enroll, or you can enroll at your child's school. And the other thing I wanted to mention, I put all of this in the chat, but we have a family summer guide. And you can view that guide at dcpsstrong.com/summer. We have a lot of activities from ages pre-K3 all the way to 12th grade. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sharona, for always keeping us informed of what's going on in your hard work in the community. So again, thank you for coming. June will be our last meeting. We are actually planning an in-person meeting for the very purposes of which Allison talked about. You'll hear more about that soon. And everyone have a good night. And we appreciate your time and your participation.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Thank you.
you.
Thank you, Marla.
Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you for a very informative meeting. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. Happy Teacher Appreciation Week next week.
Yes.
Oh, yes, we're
Happy
missing
Teachers
that
I
one.
did
Appreciation Week.
put that in the chat.
Yep. Oh, I'm sorry I missed that. We missing that. We're off. Last year we were on the right week. This
Yeah,
week. is
usually
off.
it's the first week in May. It's a little different this time.
Okay,
So
okay,
it's not you, Marla. Look.
okay, okay. I'm like, yeah, usually we.
I'm caught off guard too.
Yeah. Okay,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone have a good evening.
Okay,
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.